afternoon, everyone. This is the May 22nd, 2025 meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals in Chatham, Massachusetts. Pursuant to Governor Healy's March 28, 2025 signing of the Chapter 2 of Acts of 2025 extending certain COVID measures adopted during the state of emergency, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law until June 30, 2027. This meeting of the Chatham Zoning Board of Appeals is being conducted in person and via remote participation. Every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. A reminder, if you'd like to listen to the meeting while in progress, call 508-945-4410, conference ID 979-843-564, pound, or join the meeting through the link on about Microsoft Teams in the posted agenda. Well, this is a live broadcast and simulcast on Chatham TV, Xfinity Channel 1072. Despite our best efforts, we may not be able to provide real-time access, but we'll post a record of this meeting on the town's website as soon as possible. In accordance with town policy, the public can speak to any issue, hearing, or business item on the agenda during the meeting when recognized by the chair. Before I give you the procedural steps, I would ask you to shut off all devices that make any noise whatsoever. And it's customary that hats are not worn indoors at public meetings. So I'd ask you to conform with that. So first thing we do is we have a roll call of all board members. And then we ask if anybody participating in the call via the phone indicate their last four digits in their name so that we can identify you. The hearing notice will be read by staff, Sarah Clark on my right. Then the presentations of the appeal or applications will take place. Anyone in favor of the application can speak for up to 5 minutes, and there'll be a clock timing your recitation. After that, I will read any of the correspondence we received. Next, anyone that has a question or would like to speak against an application will have the opportunity to do that. And then the applicant can rebut any testimony that they see fit. We will have questions from the board, hear further information, then we will close the public hearing and the board deliberates and usually votes. Applicants need a supermajority in Massachusetts, which is 4 out of 5 votes. Voting today is David Veach, and David Nixon, Paul Semple, and Lee Hovey, and Virginia Fenwick. And so you need 4 out of the 5 votes. Let's see. Then all votes are taken by roll call, because that's the open meeting law in Massachusetts at this point. And at the end of the meeting, we will close with a verbal confirmation and note the time of adjournment. So the first thing we do to authorize this form of the meeting is we have a roll call vote of all board members, beginning with David Veach.
David H. Veach, and I approve of this format.
Ed Acton, I approve.
David S. Nixon, I approve.
Paul C. Semple, I approve.
Lee Hovey, I approve.
Stephen D. DeBoer, and I approve.
Virginia Fenwick, I approve.
And Randy Potash, I approve as well. So we have, let's see, minutes. April 24th, 2025. Paul?
Yes, I will move to approve the minutes of April 24, 2025. I understand we do have some corrections.
Okay. Can we have a second and then we'll open it up?
I will second that.
And anybody have corrections? Yes, Ms. Hovey.
On the last page, motion to adjourn, said I was present and voted yes, but I was not present.
Okay, well.
Well, I'll move to approve the minutes with that correction.
Oh, also, Ms. Fenwick?
Yeah, on page 9.
Mike?
Sorry, on page 9, it says that Mr. Semple moved to close the hearing. He had actually recused, so Mr. Veach moved to close the hearing, and Ed Acton voted second.
Okay, we'll make a note of that. Anything else? Nope, can we have a roll call vote on that then?
Yeah, and I second and I vote yes.
I vote yes.
All votes yes?
I vote yes.
Ginny votes yes.
Okay, very good. So our first application is 25-017, Andrew and Allison Pelosi, care of William G. Litchfield, Esquire.
Application number 25-017, Andrew and Allison Pelosi, care of William G. Litchfield, Esquire, 330 Orleans Road, North Chatham, Mass. 02650. Owners of property located at 8 Cod Lane, also shown on the Town of Chatham's Assessor's Map 14G, Block 69, Lot B102. The applicant proposes to change, alter, or expand a nonconforming dwelling on a nonconforming lot via the construction of an addition. The existing dwelling is nonconforming in that it is located 30.6 feet from Cod Lane and 20.4 feet from the easterly abutter. The proposed addition will be nonconforming in that it will be located 31.9 feet from Cod Lane where a 40-foot setback is required. The existing building coverage is 1,482 square feet, 11%, and the proposed building coverage is 2,004 square feet, 14.9%, where 15% is the maximum allowed. The lot is nonconforming in that it contains 13,420 square feet, where 40,000 square feet is required in the R40 zoning district. A special permit is required under Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 6, and Section 5B of the Protected Bylaw.
Attorney Litchfield, welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, members of the board. Bill Litchfield here on behalf of Allison and Andrew Pelosi. Andrew is right in the front row. I want to, as is often the case, commend the Central Permitting Coordinator for saving you miles by scheduling 2 hearings on Shane Drive and 1 on Cod Lane. She got you into one part of town, which I'm sure was useful for you. Andrew and Allison have owned the house on the corner of Cod Lane and Derry Street for 14 years now. And they are thinking about making it more ready for eventual year-round living. They're not quite at the retirement stage, but they do want to plan in that regard, and they also have some family situations which warrant some space. More specifically, this house was built in 1961, and it has very small bedrooms. They have 2 15-year-old twins and boys, and their current bedroom is right next to where those 2 15-year-old twins live. They'd like to have some room at the other end of the house. And the only way to do that is to put the master bedroom, as shown on that plan, off to the left. So you've seen the plans. Sarah has the site plan there. The lot is, for the Old Harbor Pines neighborhood, relatively large. It's in excess of 13,000 square feet. It's more or less dwarfed by the old Millard Eldridge dairy farm immediately to the south. We are, like everything in the neighborhood, non-conforming as to lot size because it was developed in the R10 era. The house is a little bit too close to the easterly lot line. That's not going to change. We happen to be on a corner lot, obviously, and accordingly we need to meet 2 street setbacks. We meet 1, that to Derry Street, but at present we don't meet the Cod Lane setback under current zoning. So that's sort of a segue into the criteria. Sarah, maybe the house plans might be useful. Thank you. What is proposed? That's what's there on the top right-hand side. Thank you. That's fine. That is the existing facade, and there is a porch which we are proposing to replace with what you'll see from that elevation is a farmer's porch. And maybe you could go to the proposed, Sarah. And at the top right, the house will have a sort of traditional step down as it goes along, which tends to minimize, I use the word mass loosely because there really is no mass to a house of this size. So I'll go into the criteria as to adequacy of site, including building coverage and setbacks. As I indicated, all of the lots in the neighborhood are non-conforming, although this lot is somewhat larger than some others. The site, however, is certainly adequate, and I think you can find it to be sufficient for the additional living space which is requested. We will comply as to coverage. The small farmer's porch is less non-conforming as to the street setback than as the existing house, and the balance of the changes meet all of the requirements of the bylaw. As to compatibility of size, as I indicated, we have a relatively large lot for the neighborhood with a smaller footprint than most. On the 3rd page, you can see that we are in the mid-range as to gross floor area and living area. The gross floor area at present is less than 2,700 square feet. It'll increase to 3,062. The living area will go up to 1,868, but we're in a neighborhood where several abutters are in excess of 2,000 square feet of living area. So will remain compatible if you approve the special permit, certainly comparable to the others. As to the extent of increase, we have the nonconformities, as Sarah read in the hearing notice: lot size, one of the two street setbacks, and the easterly sideline setback. There is no increase in nonconformity. The farmer's porch is proposed farmer's porch is 31.9 feet from the street, while the existing house is 30.6 feet. And I think more importantly, from a visual or perspective of feeling, not all of the road is paved, and not all of the legal layout is paved, and the porch will actually be 41 feet from the pavement, so further back than it might appear on the paper site plan. As to suitability of site, there are no environmental issues, so that's really not a concern. As to scale, sighting, mass views, and vistas, the existing structure is a low-profile cape. As I indicated, it's minimized further by the Elridge Dairy Barn, which tends to dominate the streetscape, certainly when you come in from Barcliff. The sighting, if you approve the special permit, will be unchanged. We are relatively far from the streets, with most of the additional living space at the rear of the lot. It's certainly larger, but it's rather shielded, and again, I think the step-down ridges are helpful, and the scale is in keeping with the neighborhood. There are no views or vistas involved. As to the use, it's a residential use, and that will continue. Adequacy of water and sewer, we have a town water and a Title V for 3 bedrooms. There's no change in that regard. The chair will read a letter from the health agent, and we are aware that we can't have any doors into the bedroom, which is being converted into a den, and as shown on the plans, there is a casement door there. There are no traffic flow and safety, noise, or utility issues. So as you know, the question for you to determine is whether the proposed additional living space with conversion of 1 bedroom to a family room / den, and then construction of a larger bedroom on the southwest corner with significant greater utility for Andrew and Pelosi's family, Andrew and Allison Pelosi's family, but meeting current zoning requirements is substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the current non-conforming structure on a non-conforming lot. The additional space is primarily for a larger primary bedroom and bath at that end of the house, as I indicated, together with a family room, which will give the house more utility for the family. The proposal complies with all bulk and dimensional requirements. And again, the small farmer's porch, I think, is far from substantial in its impact on the retirement. So in light of the goal of the Pelosi's to have the house ready for eventual retirement, and also to give them a little bit of separation, I think that you can find that based on the plans and this location, you can find that the proposed changes are not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood. Be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody here on Microsoft Teams that wishes to speak in favor of this application? Please raise your hand. Seeing none, I will read the 2 correspondences. One, as noted, was from Health Agent Judith Giorgio, 5/21/25, dated in a letter that she says she's received the plan to renovate and reconfigure the property. It appears that the dwelling will maintain the existing 3-bedroom layout. One existing bedroom will be converted to a den with the addition of a 6-foot cased opening. No doors will be allowed in this room. The addition will encroach on the septic tank, and a permit will be needed to relocate said tank to meet the requirements of Title V. Next, we have a note from John Huther, and his address is, 98 Cod Lane. He writes to us about on 3 different applications today. The Cod Lane applications and Shane Drive, but I'll read them every time. What he says is that he has no issues with the project, but the issue that he does have is that projects have the placement of a dumpster and a portable toilets in projects that take a long time, like up to a year. Nobody wants to look and smell the toilets or dumpsters. I think the property owners and contractors need to find places out of the sight of neighbors for these utilities. I know the vendors want to access their equipment, but not at our expense. He asked that they should be required to put them out of sight at every work site in town. John Huther and 98 Cod Lane. That concludes the correspondences for this application. Is there anybody here or on Microsoft Teams that wishes to speak against this application or has a specific question? No. Questions from the board? Mr. Veach? We'll just
I
go
have none.
around this way.
No questions.
No questions?
No questions.
No questions.
No questions.
No questions.
No question then. Okay, Paul?
I'll move to close the hearing and move into deliberations.
Dave Veach seconds and votes yes.
I vote yes.
Paul votes yes.
I vote yes.
Ginny votes yes.
Okay, that's unanimous. Deliberations. Virginia Fenwick?
I think it's a great, it's a very thoughtful expansion. I think Mr. Litchfield summarized everything very well. Certainly, believe it meets our criteria, certainly not substantially more detrimental.
Okay, Mr. Veach, what do you say?
I absolutely agree. It's a project fits right into the neighborhood, well designed and very nice.
And Ed Acton?
I agree as well. I believe it's going to fit in nicely with the neighborhood.
Mr. Nixon?
There's no reason to believe in any way this is detrimental to the neighborhood.
And Steve?
Yeah, I feel the same way. I don't see this impacting anybody. I was going to ask you what that building was in the back, but you explained that.
Yeah, he's not in this part of the hearing.
A
just
little
so you
more
know.
history.
You can't, yeah, this is just us. All right, and Lee?
I agree with my colleagues. It's a great house, great neighborhood, and a great project.
Yeah, very good. Paul?
I agree with my colleagues.
And now?
I'll move to approve the application as submitted. I guess the question would be timeframe in terms of the work.
Thank you. The Pelosi's already have a builder, Ben Morgan, who'll be doing the work. I don't think the Pelosi's would plan on doing anything before Labor Day, so the standard condition would be acceptable.
All right, I'll move to approve the application on the conditions that all construction activity and vehicles shall be contained on site or at a neighboring property with the permission of the property owner, that between June 30th and Labor Day, no exterior construction will be allowed. No work shall be permitted on the weekends, and construction activity between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. only.
Dave Veach seconds and votes yes.
I vote yes.
All votes yes.
I vote yes.
Ginny votes yes.
That's unanimous. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Next up is 25-027, Catawba Harbor Trust, care of Cape Cod and the Islands Engineering Incorporated. Sarah?
Application number 25-027, Calatuga Harbor Trust, care of Cape and Islands Engineering, Inc., 800 Falmouth Road, Suite 301C, Mashpee, Mass. 02649. Owner of property located at 176 Stage Island Road, also shown on the Town of Chatham's Assessor's Map 14A1, Block 2, Lot D107. The applicant seeks to reconstruct a portion of the elevated stairway under Section 4A3A of the Protective Bylaw. The lot contains 33,503 square feet in the R40 zoning district. A special permit is required under Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 9, and Section 8D2B of the Protective Bylaw.
And I believe our applicant is online. Is that accurate? Mr. Rivera?
Yes, that is correct. For the applicant, Raul Lizardi from Cape and Islands Engineering, representing the applicant and homeowner for this project. For those who have reviewed or even visited the site, this project is to mainly repair a failing pier stair access structure. Last year, after several storms, the bank at this property has been collapsing and eroding away, and the existing upper tier stairs and platform started sliding down along with the coastal bank. What we are proposing to do is repair this section of the upper landing and stairs, not the entire pier, and not do anything more to the pier, just repair this one section. Now, the existing pier was licensed back in 1972, and it predated the local zoning regulations. At the closest point to the abutter's property line, this pier is located roughly 7 feet away from that property line. We did provided some revisions, and this plan that was submitted with this application shows the revision that we showed to the Conservation Commission, where we reduced the width of that upper section to 4 feet wide. The existing platform is slightly larger, but this one is being proposed at 4 feet to comply with the width requirements by the town. What we're proposing to do with that reduction is also increase the setback to that same property line by 1 foot. So the non-conforming setback of 6.9 feet is still non-conforming, but it is a little better at 7.9 feet. Because some of the sediment has been lost, we are actually moving that platform slightly higher to reach the stable grounds at a slightly higher elevation. The project is not interfering with any of the waterways safety or navigation. This project is technically above mean high water and above the reach of any of the tides. The existing pier, which is at the middle section elevation and the lower section, that will remain the same. So all of this work is happening above water. We don't believe this is any detriment to the neighborhood. I believe it is a safety condition right now, and it will benefit both the property owner's use of the pier, as well as protecting the resources and wetlands from further damage. If there's any questions, I'll try to answer.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody here on Microsoft Teams that wishes to speak in favor of this application? If so, please raise your hand. Seeing none, I will read the one correspondence that we received from the Conservation Commission on May 6, 2025. They tell us that they are scheduled to place an order of conditions on this application on June 4th, and it will be revised and it will meet the performance standards under the Wetlands Protection Act. Is anybody here on Microsoft Teams wish to speak against or has a question about this application? Seeing none, are there any questions from the board? No. Yes, Virginia Fenwick, please.
Yeah. Hi, Raul. How are you today?
Good, thank you.
You mentioned the pier. I think the pier was built in the 70s, 72, you said. What about the stairs? Were they built at the same time?
So yes, the entire structure was one structure constructed and licensed in 72.
And the platform and everything that we're talking about replacing, that was all, so that's 50 years old, that structure?
Correct.
Okay. And so the erosion is pretty bad. Are you, I think I saw on conservation that you are planning to reconstruct the pier, but also improve the site. Is that right? You're gonna
That is correct.
remove
in addition,
invasives and do mitigation?
yes, in addition to the structure repair that's needed, there is a solution being proposed for this project and has been presented to the Conservation Commission to stabilize the bank. Along with that stabilization, there is some invasive plant species, and to get everything to work together, we are removing some of that invasive within I think it's an area 8 feet around the proposed work that we're doing.
Okay, so the key word is stabilization. You're working on that. You're not just repairing the stairs.
That's right. I mean, the bank is exposed. We cannot just leave it like that because anything we do will continue to collapse.
Yep. Okay, thank you.
Anybody else have questions? No? Okay, Paul?
I'll move to close the hearing and move into deliberations.
Dave Veach seconds, I vote yes.
Yes?
All votes yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, now deliberations. David Veach?
Well, certainly there's a need for this, and on both respects, both in terms of stabilizing the bank and rebuilding this section. I think it's certainly not substantially detrimental in any way, and I think it meets all of our criteria, and I'll support it.
Okay, Ed?
I agree. It meets our criteria. It's a repair, and it's also an improvement to the bank. So if I were voting, I would have my vote.
Mr. Nixon?
Well, this has been a multi-year erosion problem, as many homes here in Chatham have, and elsewhere too. So I think the Kim family has gone about it in the correct way, about hiring really people who know what's going on, looked at the alternatives and what we've had presented today, and as Ms. Fenwick pointed out, the stabilization is the key to this, because you don't want this to be, come back in 3 years and say, hey, it didn't work, and so forth. So I'd certainly recommend voting for it.
All right, very good. And Paul?
Yes, it certainly meets our criteria, and it's an improvement over the existing situation, so I intend to support it.
Yeah, and Lee?
Yeah, I agree. It's a big project, but it looks like they have a good plan, and especially like the whole concept of the stabilization of the bank, because otherwise, it's going to continue to be a problem.
Yeah, yeah, and Steve?
I agree with all the previous.
And Ms.
As-
Fenwick?
As do I.
Yeah, so they're not rearranging the deck on the Titanic here. So, very good. Paul?
I'll move to approve the application as submitted. I think, given the location and the drive, the roadway there, it's appropriate to say that all construction activity and vehicles would be contained on site or at a neighboring property with the permission of the property owner. I don't think there's a need for any other conditions.
No, I agree. Dave Veach seconds and votes yes.
I vote yes.
All votes yes.
I vote yes.
Ginny votes yes.
And that's unanimous. Congratulations. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
All right. Now, moving right along today, we're going to 57 Sea Mist Lane, the Parsons Family Revocable Trust, 25-024, care of William G. Litchfield. And when Sarah's ready, we'll hear that application.
Application number 25-20024, Parson Family Revocable Trust, care of William G. Litchfield, Esquire, 330 Orleans Road, North Chatham, Mass. 02650. Owners of property located at 57 Seamus Lane, also shown on the Town of Chatham's Assessor's Map 2A, Block 13, Lot 19. The applicant proposes to change, alter, or expand a nonconforming dwelling on a nonconforming lot via the demolition of the existing dwelling and the construction of a new dwelling. The existing and proposed dwelling comply with the setback requirements. However, the lot is nonconforming in that it contains 5 dwellings where 1 is allowed and has 0 feet of frontage where 100 feet is required. The existing building coverage is 3,362 square feet, and the proposed building coverage is 3,440 square feet, where 2,950 square feet is the maximum allowed. The lot contains 37,700 square feet of land area and 26,223 square feet of buildable upland area in the R20 zoning district. A special permit is required under Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 6, and Section 5B of the Protective Bylaw.
Welcome back, Attorney Litchfield.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Still Bill Litchfield. I am here today in regard to 57 Seamus Lane. It must have been, almost a month since you've been out to Seamus Lane, so we thought it was time for you to return. Although the vast crowd of opposition has somewhat dwindled, because the only people in the room here today are basically members of the Parsons family. The applicant is Pam Parsons, who is in the green raincoat, her granddaughter to her right, her friend Wayne to her left, and in front of her is Diana Zaglio of McPhee Associates, our architect. Parsons family purchased this property in 1959. They have some roots in the neighborhood. In fact, one of you has a 432 prefix to his phone number. The others don't. But this was once known as Pharisees Field. Nothing to do with anything biblical, but Pharisees comes from the ancient Greek. It means set off. And as Paul knows, South Chatham is sort of set off or separate. So it was built as a cottage colony in the 50s, actually before zoning. And Pam's mom and dad owned the property for many years, and she owns it now. And she is thinking about eventual retirement, and she would like to have some additional living space in one of the 5 cottages. That is obviously one of the many nonconformities as shown on the site plan. We have a long, narrow lot, although by South Chatham standards, it's fairly large. It's 37,000 square feet. You're familiar, obviously, with the fact that there are other cottage colonies now converted to condominiums in the neighborhood. This has not been converted. It remains owned by the Parsons family, by Pam. But she would like to take one of the units and make it a much more livable year-round home for the future. So if I could, Madam Chairman, I'd like to invite Diana Zaglio to come up and talk about what is proposed, the actual
Of course.
plans, and then we'll go from there. Diana? There are 2 mics, so you don't have to be shy.
Sounds good. Hi, as Bill said, I'm Diana Zaglio from McPhee Associates, and I worked with Pam to develop the design for the cottage.
Welcome.
Thank you. I guess I would just say that Pam has a deep attachment to the property, spent her childhood here, and maintains and takes care of the cottages on her own. She comes to do this, and she lives at the property throughout the summer. So, she does not have an interest in tearing everything down and building a brand-new, bigger house that could be feasibly be conforming. She wants to keep maintaining the cottages and continue to rent them. She has some renters who've been coming for many years. And then the one that she stays in, which happens to be at the top and is not on the coastal bank, but is also kind of the furthest removed from the water and oversees the rest, that's the one that she stays in, and that's the one that she is proposing to replace. On that note, we have tried to create a small but very detailed and hopefully beautiful cottage that would have, with the roof forms that will sort of keep it, help it blend in to the other beautiful buildings in the area, not overwhelm them. Pam is an artist, so she would very much like to have northern-facing windows for an art studio. In fact, the whole upstairs starts at a lower plate height and just vaults up to create a light, airy space with views to the water, but also with some windows that you can see on the front elevation is actually facing away from the water. So the tall windows on the left there are her art studio space. And it's really just not a very large space. She has 2 legal bedrooms. One is really just a tiny space upstairs. She's not increasing any bedroom count. And the septic system will remain. There'll need to be a connection to that, which is something I think the health agent might have commented on, and that will come if we, and really she just wants to create a small space that she can be in and, have a grandchild visit now and then and still do her artwork and then continue to take care of the cottages. And she hopes to pass the property on in the family at some point. So I think that's all I'll say for the moment. We're here in case you need me. Yeah.
As to the criteria then, and obviously Diana will be happy, as would I, to answer any questions about the plans themselves, but the first matter is adequacy of site, including building coverage and setbacks, notwithstanding the nonconformities of having multiple dwellings as shown there and a lack of frontage. The site was adequate for houses built more than 70 years ago before zoning. If you approve the special permit, I think you can do so based on the finding that the site remains adequate for reconstruction of the one house, allowing for future retirement use as well as her art studio. It conforms as to all setback requirements and is below the height limitation. The net coverage, with the removal of a large shed immediately adjacent to the house, will increase by just 78 square feet. As to compatibility of size, as I indicated, the lot is relatively large at just under 38,000 square feet, and several lots in the neighborhood, as you are very aware, have multiple dwellings. The current house at just 614 square feet of gross floor area and living area is by far the smallest in the neighborhood. If you look at the 3rd page of the handout, I'll get to some of the comparisons. The goal, as Diana indicated, is to increase the living area without significant change in the footprint. So a second story is necessary for that purpose, but topography creates some challenges. But all but one other abutting property, everything on that page, that 3rd page, has a second floor. So going up is consistent with the surroundings. And Sarah, I had sent you a couple of photographs, if you might bring up. That's the view from the bottom of Seamus Lane. To the right-hand side are Pam's 4 other cottages. When she goes down to the beach, that's what she looks up at on her left, on the west, when she's coming back. Those are 72 and 60 Seamist, and I think there are a couple of others that give you a similar feel. Those are aerial views, which none of us gets an immediate feel, but it does show you the size of those houses, and I'll get to that. And then on the other side, to the right-hand side or east side, there's a motel on Perkins Drive, which backs up, and the photographs there speak to the height and size of those houses. So looking at comparisons, if you look at that, our even including all 5 structures on the lot, we are at we will be, if we approve the special permit, at only 9.1% of lot coverage. 2 of our abutters are greater than that. But most interestingly, as to gross floor area, the total, if you approve the special permit, the gross floor area right now is 3298. That's for 5 structures. If you approve the special permit with the basement, which doesn't really count for living space, our gross floor area is 4995. The 2 houses next door at 60 and 72 Seamist have gross floor area in the range of 7,000 square feet. That's for 1 house. Our numbers are combined for 5 houses. The gross floor area of the house that's before you today, 57, is only 2,415 square feet, of which 800 odd square feet is a basement, which obviously won't be shown. So I think you can find that what is proposed is compatible with the neighborhood, and as you know, immediately adjacent, the Standish Village condo has got about, I think, 9,000 square feet of roughly 9,224 square feet of coverage. So those houses put together are substantial. As to the extent of increase, there are nonconformities as noted in the legal ad. There is a slight increase, less than 80 square feet in coverage. We're removing one of the sheds. And parenthetically, in case you wondered about the little shed at the northeast corner which encroaches, we have a letter from the abutter giving us a license to leave it there. So from a zoning perspective, it may not be an issue anyway, or rather from a legal perspective. From a zoning perspective, it predates zoning as far as we know. It's been there since Pam's father was there, as far as we know. As to the suitability of the site, we have a residential lot in a residential neighborhood, as Pam indicated, or Diana indicated rather. The lot does go down to Nantucket Sound, but this house is some 200 feet, 250 feet back from the top of the bank, so there are no environmental concerns. Scale, sighting, mass, views, and vistas. The existing cottage is essentially identical to the other 4 on the lot. It's very modest as the scale, but it's been in the Parsons family for a long time. It is without impact on views and vistas. The addition of a second floor is an obvious change, but the scale remains appropriate, and it's an attractive design. I don't think I'd be telling tales out of school to indicate that Pam spoke to a couple of families who had some concerns about the Standish condos, and they are on board. They are immediate abutters to this property, and they had no objection. There is virtually no impact on the streetscape because there's virtually no street. When you get beyond 57, it is Pam's driveway to her other cottages. There's a hedge to the west and the motel to the east behind a fence and in a very private location. And again, unlike the recent matters you've considered, there are no views, either individual or neighborhood, at issue. As to compatibility of use, it will remain residential use. The changes will make year-round living more feasible, or at least extended living, if not. I was going to say nobody wants to be there in February, but after a day like today, I'm not sure you want to be there in May, but that's a separate issue. As to adequacy of water and sewer, this house, all of them are served by town water. We have 2 bedrooms. Chair will read a letter from Ms. Giorgio. There is no change. We already have a deed restriction limiting the entire lot to 11 bedrooms. The septic tank will be relocated, and Ryder and Wilcox will be doing the engineering and is ready to provide the Board of Health with any additional information which they might require. So that ought not be an issue. As to traffic flow and safety, there was probably more traffic due to the Zoning Board of Appeals on Seamus Lane than anything else. It's not exactly a thoroughfare. No noise, litter, or utility issues. So the question, as you know, is whether the proposed reconstruction of one of the 5 family-owned cottages, almost but not quite on the existing footprint, is substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the current structure on a non-conforming lot. The coverage increases marginally. I know we can't say de minimis, but it increases marginally. Clearly, the second story is a change, but it's consistent with its surroundings and it's below what's allowed. Again, all but one other structure, one other property on the house, on the street rather, has a second story. Given its location, the house is largely hidden. And with, again, with 5 dwellings on our lot, our total living area and gross floor area is only 2/3 of the single houses on comparable lots next door. So what Diana has designed for Pam and her family will increase the living space without significantly changing coverage. It's an appropriate and thoughtful design as shown there, which was the goal of the project, and will allow the applicant and her family to continue to enjoy the use of the property as they have since 1959. Clearly, it's a change, but I think in light of the criteria and the plans, I think that you can find that the proposed changes are not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood. Be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Is there anybody here on Microsoft Teams that wishes to speak in favor of this application? Seeing none, I will read the correspondence from Judith Giorgio, our health agent, received on 5/21/25. She reviewed the proposed plan to demo an existing cottage and rebuild. The plan does not appear to increase the sewage flow of the property. This is a shared septic system for all cottages on this lot. Plans show the existing system, future connections to the new dwelling, and existing floor plans will be needed for review. That concludes the correspondences. Is there anybody here on Microsoft Teams that wishes to speak against this application or has a question? Seeing none, questions from the board? Virginia Fenwick, start up there.
I don't have any questions right now.
Okay. Well, we'll circle back if you raise your hand. Steve?
I don't think I really have any questions. I was going to ask if, because I wasn't quite getting it in the beginning, if all of these houses were on the same lot and owned by the same people, and I think you sort of alluded to that several times in your presentation. So the nearest abutter to this is a dwelling on our own property.
We are our own abutters.
Yes, okay. All right. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Lee?
No questions.
Paul?
I have no questions.
Mr. Nixon?
No questions.
Mr. Acton?
No questions.
Mr. Veach?
No questions.
Okay, then. Paul?
I'll move to close the hearing and move into deliberations.
Dave each seconds and votes yes.
Yes?
All votes yes.
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 Okay, so now we'll do deliberations, and we'll start with Ginny again.
I do agree, it's a very attractive design. However, it's a very unique property, and that's why I couldn't really phrase what my question was, which is, you've got a lot that is 74 feet approximately wide, and a house that's being proposed on that's 32 feet. I think it does meet the setbacks, but I don't think that it's a fair comparison to compare this proposed house, as lovely as it is, to the houses that are next to it, because the whole lot is part of this cottage community, and I don't think it fits in there with this design. By itself, it is smaller than those other large houses that Mr. Litchfield showed us. And then, of course, the hotel on the other side. And then you've got Seamus, which we're very familiar with. It has cottages that are all improving. But this is, I think, in its own category. I think it's too tall, at 1 foot 3 inches from the maximum in Chatham for a small cottage community. But I can appreciate that folks want to expand, but maybe not everyone in the cottage community. They bought in the cottage community because they want to be in a cottage community. And if all these houses are, expanding to this degree, I don't know that it fits in the neighborhood. I guess that's my summary.
Okay. Mr. Beach?
Well, I think to me, the proposal, it fits the neighborhood. And I think, some of the things that Bill the numbers he's shown us help to illustrate that. Certainly, there's no shortage of second stories on homes in the neighborhood. I think also, and it's an attractive design that I think fits. I understand Jenny has a concern about the height, but it falls pretty well below the 30-foot height requirement that the bylaw imposes. And I was fortunate, I had a discussion with Ms. Parsons while I was out there looking at it, and just, I have to say, I'm somewhat, I really would like to commend that what she's proposing to do with this property, which is basically keep those other cottages as they are, and keep them in the family ownership, and do upgrades to them, but not replace them. She talked to me about changing siding and roofing, things like that. And just that intention alone, to me, is worth my consideration. This is an old school type property, and this is someone seeking to make an improvement to one of the buildings in a way that I think can fit in the neighborhood and certainly is not substantially more detrimental.
Okay, and Steve, what do you say?
I kind of like this project. I think it's a nice design. You've incorporated some antique features, the stained glass windows and things. I think it's a nice project, and I think as long as those other cottages aren't going to be affected adversely, I don't have an issue with this at all.
Okay, Ed?
I'm not sure it's initially going to fit into the neighborhood. And that's primarily because you have kept a small footprint, but the footprint and the height are about the same almost. But I think it initially, will look rather large, but I think after time, it'll sort of blend in, and I don't think it's gonna fit initially, but I think it's certainly not gonna be detrimental to the neighborhood.
Substantially detrimental.
So substantially detrimental.
What do you say, Mr. Nixon?
Well, I don't like it. I really don't. To me, the height is too much for the neighborhood, and the neighborhood is those 5 homes on that part of Seamus. It's, as Mr. Litchfield pointed out, the homes to the right are really, you can't, unless you go down that driveway, you don't even know what they are. And to the left, it's pretty well insulated. So when I look at this, to me, the neighborhood is these 5 homes, and having the one that is already the highest because of the topography, now all of a sudden we're going out to, I guess, is it 28, 29, whatever the answer might be. It simply is the wrong place, the wrong time, and it is going to be substantially more detrimental to that neighborhood.
And Lee?
Well, I have to say, I learned a lot from Mr. Litchfield's presentation today, because I did not realize that the one family owned all of those cottages. And I think that's a very cool situation to have, and they're lucky. I did struggle with the height as well, but considering the circumstances, I think that the house is very attractive. I think that the fact that the owner of the property will be living there is appropriate. And I can support it. I might agree with Ed, it might look different for a little while, but I think that it is a appropriate reconstruction, whatever, building, considering the circumstances, considering the fact that it is the cottage community, and I will support it.
And Paul?
Well, this is this property is on one of my walking routes that I do periodically. I think I actually saw Wayne out there about 2 weeks ago. And I'm familiar with it. It seems to me that it certainly doesn't compare to 60 and 72 CMIST, which are large homes and have been there, I guess, now for maybe 6 or 7 years. Putting the house at the top at 57 as opposed to further down the driveway towards the water is a break for everyone, and I think it will fit into the neighborhood quite well once it's done. It's just going to be different, and but that's to be expected compared to a cottage community that's been there for as long as this has been there. Certainly, it's a change, but it is not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood.
So, you can count? You know who's voting?
I'm not 100% certain, because if I may respond, I haven't heard from the chair. I always like to hear from the chair.
So I tend to agree with Paul, and I think that under the circumstances, and I agree with Lee as well, that it won't be substantially detrimental. And so I would, if I had been voting, I probably would have voted yes. I don't like that it's over in terms of the building coverage. It's already over the building coverage that's allowable, and now it's going more over. So that causes me some concern, and, but I'm not voting, so.
Having gone to Chatham schools when there were such things before they became Monomoy, my counting is imperfect. Might the chair indulge me with a straw vote?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So, David Veach,
Yes.
David Nixon,
No.
Paul,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Ginny.
No.
That being the case, Madam Chairman, we've heard you. My tendency, if the board would allow, would be to ask for continuance until late August, Labor Day, if not, withdrawal without prejudice.
I'm going to confer with the boss on that and see. I know we have applications scheduled all the way into July at this point.
That's.
But not that overwhelming.
A September date would be acceptable.
If you'd like the end of August, that is August 28th, or we have August 14th as well. Both of those are open. We would just need the plans at least a week in advance.
And unfortunately, there's only here from Ryder and Wilcox. I know they're jammed up, and I'm not sure how fast that they could adjust the site plan. Though I think the second August hearing, or even the first one in September, might be safer.
So September 11th?
It's fine by me if. Second August hearing would be satisfactory.
Okay, very good. So you're asking for the second meeting in August, which is,
August 28th.
Paul?
All right, I'll move to grant the requested continuance to August 28th, 2025.
Dave Veach seconds and votes yes.
Yes.
All votes yes.
Yes.
Ginny votes yes.
Okay, that's unanimous.
very much.
Yeah,
We
we'll
appreciate your
See you
time.
next time. And not rushing at all. We're moving along in very good time today. Our next application is 20 Cove Hill Road. Application 25-028, William and Joe Ann Petrie, care of Thomas Moore, who is the designer, in Brewster. Sarah?
Application number 25-028, William and Joanne Petrie, care of Thomas Moore, P.O. Box 2124, Brewster, Mass. 02631. Owners of property located at 20 Cove Hill Road, also shown on the Town of Chatham's Assessor's Map 12J, Block 32A, Lot G 13A. The applicant proposes to change, alter, or expand a non-conforming dwelling on a non-conforming lot via the construction of an addition. The existing dwelling is non-conforming in that it is located 35.5 feet from Pine Lane. The proposed addition will be non-conforming in that it will be located 33.9 feet from Pine Lane where a 40-foot setback is required. The existing building coverage is 2,177 square feet, and the proposed building coverage is 2,938 square feet, where 3,000 square feet is the maximum allowed. The lot is non-conforming in that it contains 29,000 square feet, where 40,000 square feet is required in the R40 zoning district. A special permit is required under Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 6, and Section 5B of the protective bylaw.
Welcome.
Good afternoon, Thomas Moore from Moore Home Design Company, representing Bill and Joanne Petrie. Petrie's, well, before I do that, I just wanted to see if, because I know that initially when the members visited the site, it wasn't staked out, but it was staked out a day or so after that. So I'm not sure if you got back to see those stakes physically on the lot or not, so.
There have been no complaints that I'm aware of.
If you didn't, I apologize for that, so I'll take that. But, you know, again, Thomas Moore representing Bill and Joanne Petrie. We're requesting a special permit for an addition and renovation to their house at, on Cove Hill Road. The property is pre-existing non-conforming for two reasons. One, the size of the lot is 29,000 square feet where 40,000 is required. The front setback on the Pine Hill Lane side is 35.5 where 40 feet is required. The project that we're doing, it consists of a great room and mudroom addition to the right side or northwest side of the existing dwelling, which is to the Cove Hill Road side. We're also taking a section of the roof on the middle part of the house out and rebuilding it with a new dormer on the front, and we're creating some more volume in their kitchen living room area. We're also, in doing that, we'll be looking to expand the front porch from 4 feet in depth to 5 feet in depth. So we're pushing it 1 foot closer to the Pine Lane side. We'll also be removing and rebuilding the existing sunroom that's on the back of the house on the driveway side, the walkout side, to a slightly smaller footprint. So, we feel that this project, proposed project, is not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing structure. And although we haven't changed the nonconformity with respect to the size, the proposed front porch will increase the nonconformity to the Pine Lane side from 35.5 to 33.9, so a little, about 1.5 feet closer to the street. In addressing the criteria for a special permit, the following is submitted. The adequacy of the size, including but not limited to the maximum lot of building size. The addition renovation will be under the 3,000 square foot maximum lot coverage requirement. The proposed lot coverage will be 10.1%. As far as the compatibility of the size with the neighboring properties, the area is a neighborhood of single-family dwellings. The proposed structures are Cape-style structures, and this is a Cape-style structure. As far as the extent of the non-conforming nature of the structure or use, the use does conform to the current bylaw, and we are getting slightly closer on that Pine Lane side, but it's not I don't feel significant. As far as suitability of the site, the proposed addition renovation will not have any effect on the neighboring properties, the natural environment, vegetation, wetlands, groundwater or water bodies, and all stormwater will be contained on the site. Impact of the scale. The proposed addition renovation will not affect the visual character of the neighborhood and does not affect any views or vistas. As far as compatibility of the proposed use, again, it's a property is a single-family home in the area of single-family homes, no change in use. There is an on-site septic system that won't be affected by the new addition. The proposed addition will not create any new traffic flow or safety. The proposed addition alteration will not create any noise and/or litter. The proposed addition will not affect any utilities or public services. There will be no visual impact on the neighborhood or neighboring uses, and the proposed addition, and the house is not in a flood zone, that would not be affected. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody here on Microsoft Teams that wishes to speak in favor of this application? If so, indicate. Seeing none, the one correspondence we received was from our health agent on 5/21/25. Judith Giorgio tells us she reviewed the plan to renovate and reconfigure the property. It appears that the dwelling will maintain the existing four-bedroom layout. The proposed new great room does not meet the Board of Health definition of a bedroom with the 6-foot cased opening. The doorway through the mudroom must remain an open hallway and no doors segregating this new addition from the rest of the house. The addition will not encroach on the existing septic system. That concludes our correspondences. Is there anybody here on Microsoft Teams that wishes to speak against or has a question about this application? No. Questions from the board? David Veach?
I have no questions.
Ed?
No questions.
No questions.
No questions.
No questions.
Steve?
Is there any, how are you gonna handle the landscaping? Is there anything that's gonna be between this addition and Cove Hill Road that's gonna be changing, do you know?
I believe that as far as that timber retaining wall, because there is on that lower side, the back side is going to be a garage door. So there'll be a little bit of a change to that timber retaining wall. As far as any of the other, anything else, some landscaping will be disturbed because of the excavation.
Because I think there's a couple of large trees there that are, I think, close to Cove Hill Road. That's all staying.
If they're close to the road, we won't touch
That's all
those.
staying.
Yep.
And are both garages gonna be active? Or is
Yes.
one,
Yes.
because it's kind of there's a break between the two doors, that's kind of odd.
There is a little bit of a break.
Two single-car garages, I guess.
That's what it is, yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Ginny?
No questions.
Okay then, Paul?
I'll move to close the hearing and move into deliberations.
Dave each seconds and votes yes.
Vote yes?
All votes yes?
I vote yes.
Ginny?
Ginny votes yes.
Okay then, we'll do deliberations. David Nixon?
I don't see how this would be substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood. It's been well thought out, I really believe, and well-designed, so I'll be voting yes.
And Ed?
Yeah, I think Tom did a nice job. Typically, we don't like to see an increase in nonconformities, but I think this lot is hampered by having frontage on two roads. And, I don't know, Pine Lane almost seems like a driveway to me, but, so I understand that increase. And if I was voting, I wouldn't have any issues, and it definitely meets our criteria. And it's certainly nice to see the house being renovated. There's two large houses that have, one under construction and one that recently went up, that are much bigger than this. So certainly not substantially detrimental to the neighborhood.
And Mr. Veach?
I agree with previous, I think it's, the current porch is an illustration of why a 4-foot deep porch is not adequate for much of anything, especially when there's a bow window going out into it. So I certainly understand the need actually to expand that by a foot just to make it somewhat practical use. And so it's certainly not substantially more detrimental. It's I think a great improvement over the appearance of the house and building, will fit the neighborhood and meet our criteria, and we'll vote for it, yeah.
Very good. Lee?
Yeah, I think this is a great renovation, addition. I think it will improve the house overall, meets our criteria, and not substantially detrimental to the neighborhood.
Steve?
Yeah, I feel the same way. I mean, I don't think this is encroaching on anybody, and I don't think it's detrimental to anyone.
And Ginny?
I agree with all my colleagues.
And Paul?
And I also agree with my colleagues.
And would you like to?
I'll move to approve the application as submitted I think, given the neighborhood and the confined areas, that we probably should use our standard conditions here. So I would say all construction activity and vehicles shall be contained on site or at a neighboring property with the permission of the property owner, that between June 30th and Labor Day, no exterior construction will be allowed. No work shall be permitted on the weekends, and construction activity between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. only.
Dave Veach seconds and votes yes.
I vote yes.
All vote yes.
I vote yes.
Ginny votes yes.
Unanimous, congratulations.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, we'll see you next time.
Yes.
Whizzing through this agenda, we are 25-029, Michael and Linda Lenahan, care of Kevin Boyer, 148 Shane Drive.
Application number 25-029, Michael and Linda Linehan, care of Kevin Boyer, P.O. Box 21, West Barnstable, Mass. 02668. Owners of property located at 148 Shane Drive, also shown on the Town of Chatham's Assessor's Map 15G, Block 85, Lot B30. The applicant seeks to enlarge, extend, or change a conforming dwelling on a non-conforming lot via the construction of an addition. The proposed addition will comply with all bulk and dimensional requirements of the bylaw, but is considered a substantial alteration and under the second except clause of Section 6 of Mass General Law, Chapter 40A. Such substantial alteration requires the grant of a special permit. The existing building coverage is 1,353 square feet, 10.7%, and the proposed building coverage is 1,484 square feet, 11.7%, where 15% is the maximum allowed. The lot is non-conforming in that it contains 22,652 square feet, where 40,000 square feet is required in the R40 zoning district. A special permit is required under Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 6, and Section 5B of the Protective Bylaw.
Welcome, Mr. Boyer, I presume?
Yes, thank you very much, Kevin Boyer. The last time I followed Bill Litchfield, he helped me out to the extent that I could say just like he said. Because this is a particularly, at least from my perspective, a pretty straightforward situation when I'm making, and I'll go down the criteria as I
You can
understand.
go through the applicable criteria.
Yeah, well, I can jump right to that because, first and foremost, adequacy of the size of the site. It's non-conforming, that's the reason we're here, but as it relates to the neighborhood and all the other homes in that neighborhood, we certainly are not in any way an anomaly. Compatibility of the size of the proposed structure with the neighboring properties, I think I just addressed that as well. The extent of the proposed increase in nonconformity nature, it doesn't. We meet all the setbacks, we meet all the height limitations, we're not making it a two-story structure, et cetera, et cetera. So to that extent, I think we fall comfortably within the criteria of the board. Suitability of the site, I think I addressed that as well. Impact of scale, we're bumping out 2 feet on one side and then going out a little bit further, still meeting those setbacks. Compatibility of the proposed use with neighboring uses. We're residential, they're all residential. Adequacy of method of sewage, nothing changes there. Impact on traffic, no change. Noise and litter, no change. Adequacy of utilities, no change. Visual impact, I think it's a pretty little addition. Good enough?
Good enough, very good. You've exceeded our expectations.
Thank you.
So is there anybody here on Microsoft Teams who wishes to speak in favor of this application? Apparently not. Next, I will read the 2 correspondences, and the first one is from our health agent, and she tells us on May 6, 2025, that, let's see, she has no concerns with the addition as proposed. Okay, next we have that same note that I mentioned before from 98 Cod Lane, John Huther. This is not really in our purview, but I will read it. He is the fellow that has an issue with these projects because the placement of the dumpsters and portable toilets, in his view, need to be out of sight of the neighbors because of the odors and the unsightly view that they cause. I think the property owners need to find places out of sight for the neighbors, and that's the sum and substance of that note. Is there anybody here on Microsoft Teams that wishes to speak against or has a specific question? No. Does anyone on the board have any questions? No. Paul?
I'll move to close the hearing and move into deliberations.
Dave Veach seconds and votes yes.
Yes.
All votes yes.
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 Okay, Ginny?
Deliberations. I think it's a great project, very thoughtful, will fit right in the neighborhood, not substantially more detrimental.
Very good. Mr. Veach?
I wish they were all this simple when they came to us. It looks nice, and it certainly fits the neighborhood.
All right, Mr. Acton?
Yeah, I think it's a nice little addition, fits well into the neighborhood, and it's gonna look like it's always been there.
All right, Mr. Nixon?
But Dave, they are this simple.
Yeah?
Not. Mr. Boyer said everything I need to say. Thank you.
All right, and Lee?
Once again, great neighborhood, very cute house, and a very modest, thoughtful addition. I think it will be fantastic and meets our criteria.
And Steve?
Yeah, I have no issues. I think this is a good project, gives them a little more space there. It looks like it's an extra bathroom,
Bathroom, yeah.
not an issue.
Very good. Paul?
Certainly meets all our criteria.
And?
I'll move to close the hearing and
No,
move in.
no, you moved to.
Have I already done that?
You
I've
moved
already
to
done that.
approve.
By golly. I'll move to approve the application as submitted. I guess, given the neighborhood and activity, that we should probably use our standard
Right.
conditions. All construction activity and vehicles shall be contained on site or at a neighboring property with the permission of the property owner. Between June 30th and Labor Day, no exterior construction will be allowed. No work shall be permitted on the weekends, and construction activity between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. only.
Dave Veach seconds and votes yes.
Yes.
Paul votes yes.
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 That's unanimous. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you very much for coming in person. It makes a big, big difference for anybody in the future.
Okay. Last but not least, we're gonna stay on Shane Drive, 53 Shane Drive, 25-030.
Application number 25-030, O'Connell 1998 Family Trust, care of William G. Litchfield Esquire, 330 Orleans Road, North Chatham, Mass. 02650. Owners of property located at 53 Shane Drive, also shown in the Town of Chatham's Assessor's Map 14H, Block 40, Lot B42. The applicant proposes to change, alter, or expand a nonconforming dwelling on a nonconforming lot via the construction of an addition. The existing dwelling is nonconforming in that it is located 32.4 feet from Bishop's Terrace and 16.1 feet from the southeasterly abutter. The proposed addition will be nonconforming in that it will be located 23 feet from Bishop's Terrace where a 40-foot setback is required. The existing building coverage is 1,504 square feet, 13.7%, and the proposed building coverage is 1,640 square feet, 14.99%, where 15% is the maximum allowed. The lot is nonconforming in that it contains 10,947 square feet, where 40,000 square feet is required in the R40 zoning district. A special permit is required under Mass General Law, Chapter 48, Section 6, and Section 5B of the Protective Bylaw.
Welcome back, Mr. Litchfield.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, members of the board. Bill Litchfield here on behalf of Charles and Marilee O'Connell as trustees who own the property at 53 Shane Drive. And with us virtually is Charlie O'Connell, who could not be here in person but is waving to you as we speak. We know, obviously, that you're very familiar with this neighborhood, having been out there for the last hearing as well as a prior one. And what is proposed is a very small addition from the Shane Drive side, the left-hand side, which I guess is the northwest side, to allow for a new bathroom and to have a washer and dryer on the ground floor. In talking with Charlie about it, he explained that while there is a washer and dryer in the basement, he and Marilee together have knees that are nearly 160 years old, or 320 years old between the two of them, and they are tired of going up and down stairs to get to the laundry. So they would like to have a small washer and dryer as well as a bath off of the primary bedroom. So we'll go into the criteria. As to adequacy of site, it's adequate for the existing 1965 or circa 65 house. There are lot size, street, and sideline nonconformities which are found throughout the neighborhood. If you approve the special permit, as I hope you will do, you can do so based on the finding that the small addition to accommodate the new bath somewhat closer to the street, but mitigated by 11 feet of unpaved road, unpaved green area, which is not technically part of the lot, and with a minor but compliant change in coverage and consistent with the neighborhood is not detrimental. As to compatibility of size, again, on the third page of the handout, all of the houses on the street, or nearby houses are on the street. Some of them have more gross floor area because they have full basements. Some of them do not. But certainly this will be consistent with the others in the neighborhood with living area of 1,252 square feet. It'll be smaller than others, several others by percentage of coverage at 15%, whereas some in the neighborhood go up to 19.2%. As to the extent of increase in nonconformity, the Bath addition will be 23 feet from the secondary street, but 34 feet from the paved area, but behind a hedge. The change in coverage itself complies with current zoning. As to suitability of site, this is the second phase of the old dairy farm. All of the houses were built in the 1960s, and at this end of Shane Drive, there are no wetlands or environmental issues. It's a residentially developed site which is entirely suitable for the small but useful addition. As to scale siting mass views and vistas, it was developed under prior zoning. The existing structure is of a piece with surrounding houses. It will remain reasonable as to scale and mass. If the special permit is approved, it'll be consistent with the style of the neighborhood. It's without impact on views and vistas. And again, the addition is largely scaled, largely screened by vegetation. It's a compatible use as a residential. Charlie is not notably noisy, so there won't be any issues there. The question for you to determine is whether this proposed addition is substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the current non-conforming structure on a non-conforming lot. The house will remain consistent and compatible with its surroundings. There is an existing non-conformity to the street. That changes, as does coverage, but both are consistent with the neighborhood, and the resulting living area of 1,252 square feet, while a much-needed gain, is not inconsistent with the style and scale of the neighborhood. So I hope that you can find, and I think that you will, that the proposed change is not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood. We'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Is there anybody here on Microsoft Teams who wishes to speak in favor of the application? Seeing none, I will read the correspondences. There are two from our health agent, May 21, 2025. Judith Giorgio tells us that she has no concerns regarding the proposed bathroom addition. Then we have that same note from John Huther, 98 Cod Lane, who has an issue with a dumpster and the Jiffy Johns. He'd like them to be placed out of sight to the neighbors. And as I mentioned before, that's really not in our purview. So consider it read. Is there anybody here on Microsoft Teams that wishes to speak against the application or has a question? No. Questions from the board? I'm going to just do that. Are there any? No? Okay.
I'll move to close the hearing and move into deliberations.
Dave each seconds and votes yes.
Yes.
All votes yes.
I vote yes.
Ginny votes yes.
Okay, very good. David Veach?
Well, this is another small scale, absolutely fits the neighborhood. I think I would be remiss in not commenting that sometimes in driving around this neighborhood, it reminds me of some of my Midwestern roots. It might fit there better than Chatham somewhat, but over time, it's really, it's become a really nice neighborhood there, so that's great. So, not substantially more detrimental, meets our criteria, I'll support it.
Okay. And Mr. Akin?
I agree with Mr. Veach.
And Mr. Nixon?
I agree with the previous two gentlemen.
And Lee?
I agree as well.
And Steve?
I agree. I think this sort of balances the front facade of the house. I think it's a nice project.
And Virginia Fenwick?
I agree with my colleagues, but I want to make a couple comments. You know, this neighborhood has a lot of lot sizes that are small. And I see, as Mr. Litchfield pointed out, that a lot of them, or several of them, are over in the coverage. And I appreciate that this proposed addition was right at, at the coverage, but within the coverage at 14.9. This property is a good example of the importance of going to do a site visit. Because if you were just reading the application and see small lot, all within a neighborhood where they're visible to each other. An ask of over 9 feet, getting closer, within the setback would maybe be, something that raises an eyebrow. But when you go to the site, it's a combination of it being a corner lot, but also that nice job with the landscaping that covers. So, it makes complete sense what they're proposing, and I would support it. I think even though it's a big ask in that respect, it makes sense in that property, in that neighborhood.
Before we get to Paul, because then he can do the whole 9 yards, I will say that I had the same exact impression as Ginny, and that when I got there, I said, oh, this is fine. Yeah, it was mostly because of the landscaping and a corner lot. So, okay, Paul?
I think it's a good example of the site visit makes a big difference for us. So I'll move to approve the application as submitted. And we've already terminated our hearing, right?
We did,
Yeah,
so,
okay, good. I'll move to approve the application as submitted. Once again, I think we're in need of the standard conditions that all construction activity and vehicles will be contained on site or at a neighboring property with the permission of the property owner. Between June 30th and Labor Day, no exterior construction will be allowed. No work shall be permitted on the weekends, and construction activity between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. only.
Dave Veach seconds and votes yes.
I vote yes.
All vote yes?
I vote yes.
Ginny votes yes.
that's unanimous. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
And, okay, then. We can all go out and enjoy the weather.
I will move to adjourn.
Dave Veach seconds and votes yes.
Ed Acton votes yes.
Yes.
All vote yes?
Yes.
Steve votes yes.
Ginny votes yes.
As do I. Good night, Chatham. What time is it?
4:21 PM.
All right.
Good job, Randy.